The rain pounded against the windshield as Caleb's hand slammed into my chest, shoving me back against the cold metal of his car. I stumbled, my back hitting the hood with a thud that echoed in the empty parking lot. "What the hell, Gavin?" I gasped, heart racing not just from the fall, but from the look in his eyes, anger mixed with something deeper, something I'd been terrified to name. In that split second, everything changed. But to understand how we got here, I have to go back to the beginning, when Caleb walked into my life like a storm I never saw coming. We met 4 years ago at the University of Washington in Seattle during freshman orientation. I was the quiet kid from a small town in Oregon, carrying the weight of my parents' expectations to become a lawyer just like my dad and marry a nice girl who would give them grandchildren. Caleb was the opposite, loud, confident, with that easy smile that lit up every room. He had transferred from a community college in California, chasing a degree in environmental science, because he wanted to save the planet, or so he joked. We were paired up for a group project in our Intro to Ethics class, and from the first awkward handshake, I felt a pull I couldn't explain. At first, it was just friendship, easy and uncomplicated. We'd grab coffee after late-night study sessions at the library, or hit the gym together, where he'd spot me on the bench press cracking jokes about my terrible form. Caleb had this way of making me feel seen, like my opinions mattered, even when I was too shy to speak up in class. He introduced me to his circle of friends, the kind who organized campus protests and weekend hikes in the Cascades. I tagged along, always the reliable sidekick, never the center of attention. But late at night in my dorm room, I'd lie awake replaying our conversations, the way his laughs sounded when I finally told a decent joke, the casual touch on my shoulder that lingered a second too long. I told myself it was nothing. I was straight, or at least that's what I convinced everyone, including myself. My family back home expected perfection, the all-American son who would carry on the family name. Dad was a judge, mom ran the local PDA, and any hint of anything different would shatter that picture. So I dated a few girls from class, nothing serious, always ending with the same excuse: I'm too busy with school. Caleb, meanwhile, had a string of girlfriends, each one beautiful and outgoing, but none lasting more than a few months. He'd vent to me afterward over beers at our favorite dive bar near campus, saying things like, "Man, I just want someone who gets me, you know." I'd nod and swallow the knot in my throat, wondering if I could ever be that person. By junior year, our friendship had deepened into something I couldn't ignore. We shared an off-campus apartment to save money, splitting rent on a tiny 2-bedroom in Capitol Hill. Mornings meant rushed breakfasts where Caleb would burn the toast while blasting indie rock, and I'd tease him about his terrible cooking. Evenings were for deep talks on the fire escape, watching the city lights flicker below. He'd open up about his own family, his dad who left when he was 10, his mom working 2 jobs to keep them afloat. I shared pieces of my life too, the pressure, the fear of disappointing them, but never the full truth. One night, after too many beers, he looked at me across the table and said, "You're the only one who really knows me, Gavin. Don't ever change." His words hit like a punch, and that night I realized I was falling in love with my best friend. The secret ate at me slowly. I'd catch myself staring too long when he came out of the shower, towel slung low on his hips, or when he stretched on the couch after a long run, his shirt riding up. I'd force my eyes away, heart hammering, convincing myself it was just admiration. Society didn't make it easy either. At parties on campus, guys would joke about bros being bros, but the underlying tension was there, the fear of being labeled. I threw myself into studies, volunteering at the campus legal clinic, anything to distract from the growing ache. Caleb noticed something was off, asking if I was okay, but I'd brush it off with a laugh, blaming finals or family drama. Graduation came and went in a blur of caps and gowns. Caleb landed a job at a nonprofit fighting climate change, while I started at a downtown law firm as a paralegal, the first step toward the future my parents had mapped out. We kept the apartment, promising nothing would change. But it did. Slowly, the walls between us felt thinner. We'd still hang out, grabbing tacos after work or watching games on Sundays, but my feelings had grown sharper, more insistent. I started avoiding eye contact during our late-night talks, afraid he'd see the truth written all over my face. Then came the night that shattered everything. It was a Friday in late October, rain lashing the streets like it had a grudge. We'd gone out to celebrate a big win at Caleb's work. His team had just secured funding for a river restoration project. The bar was packed with laughter and clinking glasses, but Caleb seemed distracted. Over our third round, he leaned in close enough that I could smell his cologne mixed with rain. "Hey, Gavin, there's something I've been wanting to tell you." My stomach twisted. Was this it? Did he know? Before I could respond, his phone buzzed, and the moment slipped away. We left soon after the rain, now a downpour, turning the sidewalks into rivers. We reached his car in the parking lot behind the bar, the only sound our footsteps splashing through puddles. Caleb unlocked the doors, but instead of getting in, he turned to me, face serious, under the dim streetlight. "Listen, man, I've been thinking a lot lately about us, about how close we've gotten." His voice cracked slightly, and I froze. This was the moment I dreaded and dreamed of for years. But before he could finish whatever he was about to say, a group of rowdy guys from the bar stumbled past, one of them yelling something crude about pretty boys holding hands. Caleb's jaw tightened. The next thing I knew, his hands were on my chest, shoving me hard against the car. The impact knocked the breath out of me, but it wasn't the shove that hurt. It was the confusion in Caleb's eyes as he stood there, chest heaving, rain dripping from his dark hair. "You think I don't know?" he shouted over the storm, his voice raw. "All this time, Gavin, you've been looking at me like that. And you never said a word." My mind reeled. How did he know? Had I slipped up? A mutual friend from college must have pieced it together after I drunkenly confessed my feelings at a reunion last summer. The secret I'd guarded so carefully was out, and now it hung between us like the thunder cracking overhead. I pushed myself off the hood, wiping rain from my face. "Caleb, wait, it's not what you think." But the words felt hollow because it was exactly what he thought. I'd spent years hiding the truth that every laugh, every shared silence had been laced with a love I couldn't admit. He stepped closer, his hands clenched at his sides. "Then what is it? Because I've been going crazy wondering if I'm imagining things, if our friendship was just a lie." The pain in his voice cut deeper than any shove. In that moment, under the flickering parking lot lights with the city humming around us, I saw the boy I'd fallen for, the man he'd become, and I couldn't lie anymore. Without thinking, I reached for him, my fingers brushing his wet jacket. "It's not a lie. I've felt this way since the day we met, but I was scared, terrified of losing you, of what my family would say, of what the world would think." The confession tumbled out like the rain, now soaking us both. Caleb stared at me, eyes wide, then something shifted. His anger softened into shock, then a flicker of understanding. Before I could pull back, he grabbed my shirt and pulled me in. Our lips met in a desperate kiss born of years of unspoken tension. It was clumsy at first, rain mixing with the salt of tears I didn't realize were mine, but it felt like coming home. We broke apart, gasping, both stunned by what had just happened. Caleb's forehead rested against mine, his breath warm against my skin. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he whispered. I had no answer, only the crushing weight of all the nights I'd spent alone wrestling with who I was. We climbed into the car, still dripping, the windows fogging instantly. The drive home was silent except for the wipers slashing across the glass. Inside the apartment, we shed our wet clothes in awkward silence, grabbing towels from the bathroom. Caleb handed me one, his eyes avoiding mine. "I need time to process this, Gavin. This changes everything." The next few days were a blur of tension. I threw myself into work at the firm, burying the memory of that kiss under stacks of case files. Caleb did the same, disappearing early for site visits and coming home late. Our shared space felt smaller, every conversation clipped, every glance loaded. I replayed the shove, the kiss, the confession 1,000 times, wondering if I'd ruined the best thing in my life. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from my mom reminding me about the upcoming family reunion in Oregon. "Can't wait to see you and meet that special someone," she'd write with a winking emoji. The irony burned. How could I bring Caleb home as anything more than my roommate when my parents still sent me articles about settling down with a good Christian girl? One evening, Caleb finally broke the silence. We were in the kitchen chopping vegetables for a stir-fry, a ritual we'd kept from college days. "I talked to my mom about it," he said quietly, not looking up from the cutting board. She wasn't surprised. Said she'd always wondered. His words eased something in my chest, but the fear remained. Caleb's mom had always been supportive, raising him alone after his dad bailed. Mine were different pillars of their small-town church community, where being gay wasn't discussed, it was condemned. "What about your family?" he asked, finally meeting my eyes. I shrugged, forcing a smile. "They wouldn't understand. It would break them." The misunderstanding grew from there. Caleb started pulling away, spending more nights at his office, claiming workload, but I knew it was more. A week after the kiss, I overheard him on the phone with our old college buddy Marcus, the one who'd probably spilled my secret. "Yeah, man, I get it now, but it's complicated," Caleb said, his voice low. Betrayal stung fresh. Had Marcus told him out of spite or loyalty? I didn't confront him, instead letting the doubt fester. Work became my escape, but even there the pressure mounted. My boss, a conservative partner at the firm, made offhand comments about family values during meetings, leaving me wondering how long I could hide this part of myself. Then came the first real crack in our fragile peace. Caleb's nonprofit threw a fundraiser at a waterfront venue, and he invited me as his plus one. The night started fine, champagne, flowing laughter echoing off the glass walls overlooking Puget Sound. But halfway through, a colleague of his pulled me aside, a woman named Sarah who'd known Caleb for years. "He's been different since that night you two had words," she said, eyes searching mine. "Whatever happened, be careful with his heart, Gavin. He's been hurt before." Her words hit like another shove. Hurt? By me? The guilt twisted deeper. Later, on the balcony with the city lights sparkling below, Caleb turned to me. "I don't regret the kiss, but I don't know if I can do this. Not with everything else." His words hung in the cool night air, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Caleb ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. "I mean, my life is here, fighting for something bigger than us. And your family, your job, they all expect the version of you that doesn't include me, not like this." The truth of it stung because he was right. I'd spent so long hiding that stepping into the light felt impossible. We left the party early, the car ride home thick with unspoken fears. Back at the apartment, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Caleb pace in his room. The shove that night had been the catalyst, but now it was the silence that threatened to break us. Morning brought no relief. I received a call from my sister Emily back in Oregon. "Mom and Dad are planning a big barbecue for your birthday next month. They want you to bring someone special finally." Her tone was teasing, but the expectation was clear. I mumbled an excuse about work and hung up, heart pounding. How could I explain Caleb to them when I barely understood us myself? At the office that day, a senior partner pulled me into his office for a chat about my future. "Gavin, you're on track for associate, but we value stability, family men who fit the mold." His words were laced with the kind of subtle pressure that made my skin crawl. I nodded, smiled, and escaped to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, fighting the urge to scream. Caleb and I circled each other like strangers, sharing the same space. One afternoon, he came home early, finding me on the couch scrolling through old photos from college. "Remember that hike in the Olympics?" he asked, sitting beside me for the first time in days. I nodded, the memory flooding back, the two of us lost on the trail, laughing as we shared a granola bar. "I do. That was the day I knew I couldn't lose you." He looked at me, then really looked, and for a moment the wall between us cracked. "I don't want to lose you either, Gavin, but I'm scared. What if this is just a phase for me? What if society tears us apart?" His vulnerability mirrored my own, and in that shared fear we found a fragile bridge. We tried to rebuild slowly. Small things first: shared dinners where we talked about work, not us; movie nights where our hands brushed accidentally on the couch. But the misunderstandings lingered. When I mentioned a work event that required bringing a date, Caleb's face darkened, assuming it meant hiding him. "So I'm still your secret?" he snapped one evening. The argument escalated, voices rising, until he stormed out, slamming the door. I sat alone in the silence, replaying every choice that led here. Later, he returned, soaked from the rain again, and we talked until dawn. "I want this, Gavin, but I need you to fight for it too." His words were a challenge, and I knew I had to step up. The turning point came unexpectedly during a weekend trip to the mountains we'd planned months earlier, before everything changed. We drove up to a cabin near Mount Rainier, the air crisp with pine and promise. Hiking the trails felt like old times, easy conversation flowing. At the summit, overlooking the snow-capped peaks, Caleb stopped and turned to me. "That night in the parking lot, I shoved you because I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. For wasting time." He took my hand right there on the ridge, wind whipping around us. "I think I'm falling for you too." The confession lifted a weight I'd carried for years. We kissed again, this time slow and certain, no rain, no anger, just truth. But back in the city, reality crashed down. My parents announced a surprise visit to Seattle for a family bonding weekend. Panic set in. How could I introduce Caleb as anything more than a roommate? The night before their arrival, we sat on the fire escape debating. Tell them the truth, Caleb urged. Or at least part of it. I wanted to, but the fear of their disappointment paralyzed me. The visit started tense, Dad grilling me about my career, Mom fussing over the apartment. When Caleb joined us for dinner, the air thickened. So, Caleb, what do you do? Dad asked, polite but probing. Caleb answered smoothly, but I saw the strain in his smile. Later in the kitchen, Mom pulled me aside. He's a nice boy, but you two seem awfully close. Is there something you're not telling us? Her intuition hit too close, and I deflected with a laugh. The betrayal came from an unexpected source. Marcus, our old friend, texted me out of the blue. Hey man, just FYI, your parents called me asking about you and Caleb. I didn't say anything, but they seemed suspicious. My blood ran cold. Had I been careless? The secret was unraveling faster than I could control. Caleb noticed my distraction that night, confronting me gently. Whatever it is, we face it together. His support gave me strength, but the psychological toll mounted. I started questioning everything, my choices, my worth, the cost of love. Sleep evaded me as the weight of impending confrontation pressed down. The next morning, over coffee, Caleb suggested we take a walk in Discovery Park to clear our heads. The trails wound through forest and beach, the salty air a balm for my frayed nerves. I sacrificed a lot to be here with you, Gavin, he said as we watched ferries cross the Sound. My last relationship ended because I couldn't commit fully. But with you it's different. I want to fight. His words stirred something deep, a resolve I hadn't felt before. We returned home hand in hand for the first time in public view of neighbors. It felt liberating and terrifying all at once. Work the following week brought its own storm. A high-profile case landed on my desk involving a discrimination lawsuit against a local tech company. As I dug into the files, reading testimonies from employees fired for their sexual orientation, my own fears mirrored theirs. During a team meeting, I spoke up for the first time, advocating strongly for the client. My boss raised an eyebrow. Personal stake, Gavin? The question lingered, but I held my ground. That evening, I told Caleb about it, and he beamed with pride. See? This is you owning who you are. His encouragement fueled me, but the internal conflict raged on. Family expectations reached a breaking point when my parents extended their stay, insisting on a Sunday brunch. The restaurant overlooked the waterfront, sunlight streaming through windows. Conversation flowed until Mom asked point blank, Gavin, are you seeing anyone? We worry you're lonely. Caleb sat beside me, his knee brushing mine under the table. I froze, the words stuck in my throat. Dad chimed in, a good woman would settle you down, son. The pressure built until Caleb squeezed my hand openly. Actually, Sir, Gavin and I are together. The table fell silent. Mom's fork clattered, Dad's face hardened. This is a phase, right? You'll come around. Their rejection hit like a physical blow, leaving me breathless. We left early, Caleb driving in silence. Back home, the argument erupted, not between us, but within me. I can't do this to them, I admitted, tears stinging. Caleb pulled me into a hug. You're not doing anything to them. You're living your truth. His steady presence anchored me, but the psychological aftermath was brutal. Nights blurred into anxiety, dreams of disownment, isolation. I started therapy quietly at a clinic downtown, the sessions peeling back layers of shame I'd buried since college. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Rivera, helped me see the shove that night as the catalyst for growth, not destruction. Meanwhile, Caleb faced his own pressures at the nonprofit. Funding cuts loomed, and his boss hinted that personal distractions could affect his promotion. He sacrificed late nights and weekends to prove his dedication, but the strain showed. One evening, he came home exhausted, collapsing on the couch. I don't regret choosing us, but it's hard, Gavin. We talked for hours, mapping out a future that honored both our dreams. The bond strengthened through these trials, forging something resilient. A major misunderstanding threatened to unravel it all again. I received an anonymous email at work with photos of Caleb and me from the park, the kiss captured in the distance. The sender warned, come clean or everyone sees this. Panic surged. Was it a colleague? Marcus? I confronted Caleb, assuming the worst. Did you tell someone? Hurt flashed in his eyes. You really think I'd betray you? The argument escalated until we traced the email to an ex of Caleb's, jealous and spiteful. Relief washed over us, but the damage lingered, the trust tested. We chose forgiveness, sitting up late reaffirming our commitment. The turning point arrived during a charity gala for Caleb's organization. Dressed in suits, we walked the red carpet together for the first time publicly. Cameras flash, questions came, but we held hands, answering honestly. Yes, we're together and proud. The moment felt cinematic, the city skyline glittering behind us. Backstage, Caleb whispered, "This is us, no more hiding." The high lasted until my phone rang. It was Emily, my sister. "Dad had a heart scare after brunch. He's okay, but he wants to talk to you." Guilt crashed down. I flew to Oregon alone, the drive filled with dread. At the hospital, Dad looked frail in his bed. "Son, I don't understand, but I don't want to lose you." His words cracked open a door, though Mom remained distant. Returning to Seattle, I shared the news with Caleb. "It's a start," he said, holding me tight. The emotional climax built as we faced the final hurdle, a public coming out at my firm's holiday party. I stood at the microphone, heart pounding. "I've been living a lie for too long. I'm gay, and I'm in love with this incredible man, Caleb." Gasps rippled, but applause followed from unexpected allies. The weight lifted, leaving room for growth. The party ended in a haze of congratulations and questions, but the real work began afterward. Colleagues who'd never suspected pulled me aside, sharing their own stories of hidden identities. It humanized the office, making the once sterile hallways feel warmer. Caleb and I celebrated quietly at home with takeout and a movie, the simple normalcy of victory after months of chaos. Yet the psychological scars remained. Nights still brought doubts, whispers of "what if?" echoing from family rejection. Therapy helped me reframe them as echoes, not truths, turning fear into fuel for change. Caleb's work hit a crisis when the nonprofit lost a major grant. He sacrificed his pride, applying for a lower-paying role elsewhere, but the decision weighed heavy. "I want a life where we build something together, not just survive," he confided one rainy afternoon. We spent weekends apartment hunting, dreaming of a place with a view, a fresh start. The search strengthened us, highlighting how far we'd come from that shove in the parking lot. Misunderstandings still surfaced, like when I missed his birthday dinner due to a work deadline. He felt sidelined, assuming I prioritized the job over us. We talked it through late into the night, deciding on boundaries that honored both careers and love. Family dynamics evolved slowly. Mom sent a tentative text inviting us for Thanksgiving. The drive to Oregon felt monumental, Caleb's hand in mine the whole way. The dinner table was tense at first, Dad avoiding eye contact, Mom serving extra portions as if food could bridge the gap. Then Emily broke the ice with a toast to family no matter what. Tears flowed, honest conversations followed. Dad admitted his fears stemmed from his own upbringing, while Mom confessed she'd suspected for years. Acceptance wasn't instant, but it was real, a hard-won step toward healing. The weekend ended with hugs and promises of more visits, the psychological burden lightening with each mile back to Seattle. Societal pressures tested us again when a local news story about our firm's case went viral, highlighting my role. Comments online ranged from supportive to vicious trolls questioning our relationship. Caleb shielded me from the worst, reading them aloud and laughing them off. "They're not our story," he'd say, pulling me close. His loyalty became my armor, reminding me that true strength came from within. We volunteered together at an LGBTQ youth center, sharing our journey with kids facing similar struggles. Watching their eyes light up with hope reinforced our purpose, the ripple effect of our growth extending beyond us. A betrayal from the past resurfaced when Marcus reached out, apologizing for the loose lips that started it all. I thought I was helping, but I see now it wasn't my place. We met for coffee, the three of us forgiving, but setting new boundaries. The conversation closed a chapter, allowing us to move forward without lingering resentment. Caleb and I marked the occasion with a quiet hike, the same trail where he'd first confessed his feelings. At the summit, he dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but with a key to a new apartment. "Move in with me officially. Let's build our life." I said yes, tears mixing with laughter, the moment pure and cinematic. The months that followed brought deeper intimacy, not just romantic, but emotional. We cooked elaborate meals, hosted friends from both our worlds, and navigated the everyday challenges of coupledom. My promotion at the firm came with a raise, allowing us financial breathing room. Caleb secured a new position at an environmental law firm, aligning his passions perfectly. Life settled into a rhythm, beautiful in its simplicity, yet profound in its meaning. The shove that night in the rain had been the spark igniting a transformation neither of us could have predicted. Through misunderstandings, sacrifices, and revelations, we'd emerged stronger, rooted in authenticity. Yet one final confrontation loomed. My parents planned a family reunion inviting extended relatives. Whispers of discomfort reached me through Emily, but we decided to attend anyway. The backyard barbecue buzzed with relatives, some welcoming, others distant. An uncle pulled me aside with outdated advice, but I stood firm, explaining my truth without apology. Caleb stayed by my side, his presence a quiet force. By evening, even the skeptics softened, sharing stories of their own evolutions. The day ended with Dad clapping Caleb on the back, a small but monumental gesture. Driving home, we reflected on the journey, the pain, the joy, the undeniable growth. Seattle welcomed us back with its familiar drizzle, but now it felt like home in every sense. We unpacked boxes in the new apartment, hanging photos from our hikes, and the gala night, the walls filling with memories of resilience. Mornings started with coffee on the balcony overlooking the city, Caleb's arm around me as we planned the day. Work balanced with date nights, hikes, and quiet evenings reading side by side. The emotional landscape had shifted from turmoil to peace, each decision a testament to the men we'd become. I no longer hid pieces of myself, the acceptance I'd fought for internally now reflected in the world around me. Friends noticed the change too. Our old college group gathered for reunions where stories flowed freely, no secrets left unspoken. Sarah from Caleb's office became a close confidant, offering advice on navigating blended families. The support network we'd built proved invaluable, reminding us we weren't alone in this modern world of shifting norms. Yet challenges persisted in subtle ways, like navigating holidays with my family or facing occasional workplace microaggressions. Each one became an opportunity for dialogue, strengthening our bond through honest communication. Caleb's unwavering loyalty and my growing self-assurance created a partnership that felt unbreakable. As spring bloomed, we took a road trip down the Oregon coast, stopping at the small town where I'd grown up. Walking the familiar streets hand in hand felt empowering. We visited my parents for dinner, the table now filled with genuine laughter. Mom baked Caleb's favorite pie. Dad asked about his work with real interest. The healing wasn't linear, but it was happening one conversation at a time. Back on the beach at sunset, Caleb turned to me, waves crashing nearby. That shove in the rain saved us, Gavin. It forced us to face what we were too scared to admit. I smiled, pulling him close, the salt air mingling with our shared breath. The journey had been long, marked by pain and triumph, but it led us here to this moment of complete acceptance. Life continued its steady rhythm, filled with ordinary miracles. I advocated for LGBTQ policies at the firm. Caleb led community cleanups that made headlines. Together we volunteered, mentoring young men grappling with identity, the very struggles we'd overcome. Our story became a quiet beacon for others, proof that love rooted in truth could weather any storm. The psychological growth we'd both achieved transformed not just our relationship, but our individual selves. I stood taller, unburdened. Caleb radiated a confidence born of vulnerability. The world around us, modern America with all its complexities, had tested us, but we'd emerged victorious. On our anniversary, we returned to the parking lot where it all began. Rain fell softly as we stood by the car, now ours. "Remember?" I asked. Caleb laughed, pulling me in for a kiss. How could I forget? It was the start of everything real. We drove home, the city lights blurring past, hearts full. The path of self-discovery, love, and acceptance had been arduous, but every step, every sacrifice, every truth revealed had shaped us into better men. In the end, our bond stood as testament to the power of facing oneself head-on. True or false? Hiding your true self always protects the ones you love more than revealing it does.